We can start, Prem. Like,
Thank you. Welcome everybody to this very important workshop, which is part of the Digital Media Conclave 2021. Uh, like we have been uh, telling you, as far as the Digital Media Conclave, the three-day conclave is concerned, we have been trying to deal with three major aspects, which is how digital media platforms are run in terms of revenue, in terms of cost. That was day one. How technical aspects of digital media platforms, the impacts of it, how they are affecting today's functioning of digital media platforms was day two. And day three is about the journalistic aspects and a whole lot of issues around it. We did discuss regulations, we did discuss self regulation, a whole lot of such issues in the two panels that we just concluded in the Digital Media Conclave's concluding day. And the most important session we saved for the last, which is the role played by regulation. So, in line with our overall theme of staying digitally ahead, the workshop will deal with rules and regulations for digital media, ethics, censorship, and laws. And we have one of the foremost experts on cyber laws now, Vijayshankar, who's the executive chairman of FDPPI, who will be taking this, who will be conducting this workshop. We request you to stay tuned, watch this workshop. Please post your questions in the various social media platforms that you're watching this from, on YouTube, wherever you are watching this workshop. If you have any questions, we will try and address it by taking it to our expert, our panel expert. So, Naavi, sir, over to you for this most anticipated workshop on the concluding day of the Digital Media Conclave. Thank you, sir. Over to you.
Thank you, friends, and whoever is there online. Um, of course, see, when we talk of what regulations are there presently for digital media, we have actually two main regulations. One is the Information Technology Act, which has been there for some time, and the new regulation which is coming up under the Personal Data Protection Act, which we have now the latest 2021 version. Now, before we actually move into what exactly is the regulation, we must first of all accept that there is a need for regulation. See, unregulated digital media is actually a threat to journalism. See, journalism has always been respected as the fourth pillar of democracy, because of which the so-called freedom of speech, etc., freedom of press has been considered very sacrosanct. However, after there are two things which have affected the media. One is, of course, commercialization. Um, we know that in the early days, there used to be a content versus advertisement ratio in all media vehicles, including print media, which today no longer is respected. Commercially, of course, whatever is good, publications keep doing it. Earlier, we could not see a more than 100 column centimeter advertisement in Hindu front page. Today, we don't mind seeing the full page with the masthead containing the advertisement. So that is a way commercialization has taken over the media, because of which there is a automatic, you can say, dilution of what we may call as ethics. Okay. Now, the second aspect is the technology itself has brought in a kind of change, whereby the role of moderation between the reporters and the publishers, that is the editors, their role has been reduced to some extent. In fact, in many of the TV media, they say that the reports come in, and if they want to catch the breaking news, it within less than 30 seconds, the news gets flashed on the screen. So therefore, there is no moderation. Now, so the current news media, whatever we call it as digital media, has to actually overcome these issues, that lack of moderation, because of which some wrong news may get uh, published, and of course the other issues of commercialization. Now, when this technology media developed, like Twitter and other social media, initially we were all feeling that now there is the power of the news content has now come to the citizen journalists. Unfortunately, that also was a short-lived kind of a hope, because today we have a lot of fake accounts in Twitter and other social media, and the fake accounts actually create fake news, and there are artificial intelligence led generating algorithms. You give a keyword, it will create an article kind of a thing. In this kind of a scenario, if media content is not properly regulated, the media will lose complete credibility. Say we have press council and maybe cable TV regulations other in other media, but digital media has been fairly, you can say, free. It is good that it is free, but sometimes freedom itself creates an issue. So this is the background with which regulations in India has started. Initially, of course, ITA 2000 was there, Information Technology Act, which considered this digital media vehicles as intermediaries. See, in IT Act, actually, they used to consider them as intermediaries, and they were put on par with internet service providers, like, and our mobile service providers. And these intermediaries were given certain safe harbor provisions that they will not be responsible for the content. If content is actually creating an issue, the least you can do with the platform is that you report it to them so that they will take it down. So the media as an intermediary had a lot of freedom to work on that. But with the growth of these anonymous reporters, this media as an intermediary became actually the publishers. Today we are discussing whether a Twitter or a Facebook is a publisher or an intermediary. So Information Technology Act tried to regulate it as an intermediary and therefore gave a lot of concessions. But the media used that concession to develop themselves into a publication, started taking advertisements, and then they started even directing what content will appear on their platform, what content they will take down on their own choice. So then automatically the politics came into being. There was a bias of one kind or the other, and therefore the medium as a publisher started evoking a lot of questions. So today we are in a situation where these social media vehicles are clearly publishers. What we mean by publishers is they decide what news content will stay on their medium. It is not that I post something and it will automatically go there. My posting may be removed and somebody else's posting may be there. And this kind of exercising a control on what appears and what should not appear, that makes this social media not an intermediary but a publisher. So Information Technology Act does not give any protection or safe harbor to a publisher. Now somehow the digital media was not able to actually accept this situation, and therefore they started fighting with the government. In fact, the digital media has been for a long time in a combative mode with the government, whichever is the government of the day. Okay, of course, depending upon the government of the day, other people will join and perhaps take one side or the other. But media as a whole have fought for their freedom to be, you can say, irresponsible, which is what is creating an issue. And now with the new Personal Data Protection Act and of course the February guidelines, there are two important pieces of regulation now. The intermediary guidelines of February 25, which of course I think has been even challenged in the court. What it said was that digital media should have some kind of a self-regulation. Self-regulation at the level of the organization itself, with a grievance redressal mechanism in which some content will have to be tagged and you have to say whether it is adult content, 13 plus, 16 plus, or something like that. Second is that this particular digital media should become part of a community group where you have a second level regulation which will monitor this grievance redressal. What we mean by grievance redressal is on the content, if there is some objection, this particular regulator will have to take action about that. So this media guidelines suggested tag content to be tagged, and then local grievance redressal, and then grievance redressal at the industry level. And at the last level, of course, the ministry was supposed to have one regulator, in the sense that an officer of the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting will be designated as an official in charge of this. And if there are complaints about the self-regulatory authorities under this level 2, maybe it will be taken up by the government. So this 3-level regulation was suggested. Basically, it was self-regulation meant that you should have a privacy policy. You should give notice that this kind of a content cannot be published. And if somebody publishes it, then if it comes to your knowledge, then you have to take action to either tag it and say some kind of remove it. And normally removal is required only when a law enforcement authority authorized for the purpose or a court issues a notice. So media had every freedom to ensure that some content will be there, and if the content is objected, they could give a tag saying that this content is objected, it is under say moderation of some kind. Then if court order comes, they have to remove. This kind of a simple regulation was suggested under this guidelines of February 25, but the media was not happy. We all know what happened in Twitter and other things. So they said, we will not have any kind of regulation. No government can say anything to us. We will do whatever we want. And that is the freedom of expression, which is what is bothering the regulators. And in the Personal Data Protection Act, they tried to bring in some aspects of what was already suggested in this notification guidelines. And what they have said here is very simple. Every social media should give a voluntary option to the users who are the account holders to identify themselves. See, if I want to identify myself on Twitter that I am Vijayshankar, I am willing to give my Aadhaar ID, Twitter doesn't have a right to say that I will not verify you. Today, Twitter does not verify people like us. Okay, whatever you give, they have got some excuse not to verify us, whereas all Tom, Dick and Harry get verified. So we feel that the social media is not having a proper methodology for this verification. So PDPA says that you please try to introduce a system. If based on the system, if somebody wants to identify, first of all, accept that identification. Second, show that identification in all the posts. What this means is that only people who can identify themselves can post their whatever news content, opinions on the medium. Therefore, the possibility of fake content will drastically come down. So this is the simple thing which has been suggested in the new PDPP 2021, which only for the last 2-3 days it is available. There is also a possibility that the regulator, that is officer in the Ministry of I&B, may be considered as a sectoral regulator, and PDPP 2021, when it is enacted, may give a sort of a recognition to this sectoral regulator or the office or the department which is created in the Ministry of Information Technology. So this is something which is required to be done. And those organizations which have more than 50 lakh registered subscribers will be called significant social media intermediary. They need to have a data protection officer. They were already required to have a compliance officer. Now they will have to have a data protection officer at a very senior level. So basically, we are trying to bring in some kind of moderation to the system. And I hope the platforms will leave their non-cooperative tendency and combative nature and start cooperating with the government in the regulation. So this is simply what I want to generally talk about it. If there are any questions, perhaps we can answer.
So one recurring question is that regulation should not be allowed. That there should be only self-regulation. That's something that often has been emphasized. How do you respond to a question like that, sir?
No, this also is self-regulation only. It says, what is self-regulation? Now the media organizations are expected to give their policies, okay, which will say that you cannot post this kind of a thing. Then if a court issues an order, obviously it cannot say no to removal of the information. Next to the court, they have said authorized, say, official, like under Section 69 of Information Technology Act, a committee of the ministry can issue notifications. They are actually legally empowered officials. So if they give an information, kind of a documented notification saying that your particular content should be removed, then either the media has to accept that, or they have to challenge the order in a court. See, all these notifications, there is a remedy through the court. So there is nothing like curbing the freedom of expression. If at all there is some such curb, it is temporary. You can go to the court through a writ petition and bring a stay on what the government has issued. If the argument is strong, courts today give stay within 24 hours perhaps. So there is no reason to feel that this is a kind of a something which people are very, usually called chilling effect. Okay, there is no chilling effect. This is all assumed chilling effect. From the side of the government, if you think, say, take for example the actual incidents which happened during the Delhi riots, Bangalore riots, the farm agitation. People sitting in Canada and USA, celebrities who are singers and others, start posting Twitter messages, and there is an allegation that they received a lot of remuneration, like an advertisement. In one case, it was said 2.5 million US dollars was paid. So whether it is true or not, it cannot be proved, of course. Say these are all things which cannot be proved in a court of law. But the media has given an opportunity to people to point fingers at them, and therefore this regulation has become a kind of necessity. And self-regulation is publishing of policies, then having being able to respond to the orders from a proper authority, then have a grievance redressal system. When we have a grievance redressal system, it is like an arbitration. You can have an industry-wide grievance redressal mechanism where you can have very independent, neutral media professionals as arbitrators or mediators. So complaints can go there and they can take a decision. So most of the disputes will be resolved at this particular stage. So that is the regulation which we are talking of. There is a lot of misrepresentation about this because people are very sensitive. Something which anything to do with digital, people think that you are curbing the freedom of expression. But remember, every fundamental right has to be qualified with some reasonable restrictions, because we know that WhatsApp has been repeatedly used for promoting enmity in the community and even have riots. Bangalore riots was directly associated with that. Delhi riots were also engineered by the WhatsApp messages. So when the government says, go to WhatsApp, that you are becoming a media, so I will ask questions of who originated a media particular message. You just give me the origination details. I am not asking for content, because only when I know the content already and I feel that is objectionable, I will tell you this particular content, please tell me how did it originate. That's all I'm asking. So whereas WhatsApp, gives out a lot of things saying that I'm an end-to-end encryption service. If you ask this, then I will have to watch the content. Today, most of the social media vehicles are already watching the content for their own commercial benefit. Only when the government asks the information, they suddenly become the privacy champions of the world. So this is what is creating a problem in resolving this particular situation.
So thank you very much for giving a wonderful insight into how regulations will work and what is the need of the hour. And like you mentioned, these are reasonable restrictions that are being spoken about. There will be a debate when people don't understand the exact nuances of what you have said, but you've laid it out very clearly. We will be posting this recording to a much larger audience who can go through this and take all the details that you've mentioned and understand what really we mean by regulations and not a carpet kind of regulations or try to threaten the media freedom in any way. So thank you so much, sir. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate your time. We're very happy that you could come and spend some time and give us a very clear picture to it. Thank you. Thanks a lot for joining us. I will now hand it over to Vinod, our co-convener, and Deepti Kumar. Please take it away.
Thank you, sir. It was a wonderful session. I think it was very informative, and we were just discussing parallelly that you have very precisely actually summarized whatever you have discussed over the last 3 days. I think we have touched upon all the topic which is very relevant to today's digital journalism world, the way it is evolving, the kind of regulations we should be talking about, the areas which the government should be focused on. I think it's a very wonderful and very well laid out discussion. Thank you for your time. I would now like to introduce our DJoy's founder, Prime Point Srinivasan sir, to give some few words about the entire conclave and then thank our chief guest and take it forward from there.
Thank you, Vinod. Yes, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. We are able to hear you.
Thank you very much, Vinod. Really, the 3 days, really a wonderful session. And for all the digital media experts and digital media students, even, the very concept we thought of that why not we have a 3 days conclave, and we started, and the conveners, Vinod, Prem and Deepti, they worked for nearly 40 days on this particular task. Really, 40 days is not a small thing. Very meticulously they worked on that. In fact, I must really appreciate, and I just want to give them a big hand to them for their extraordinary enthusiasm in organizing this. For nearly 40 days they worked on that, and really happy. And the 3 days workshop, that means four panel discussions and 3 workshops were held. And the last, that Naavi's final why a regulation is needed. In fact, this is one of the areas where it is more misunderstood than it is understood. The moment when we say a regulation, immediately the people start misguiding, whether it is censorship or anything. We have also written a big cover story last year in our e-magazine Presence. Vijay is one of the initiatives of Presence, where we have said any industry or any domain, unless it is regulated, it will not flourish, it will not go. Today, journalism facing a lot of challenges because it is not regulated, because they don't want a regulation, because anything free for all doesn't have anything there. And we need a regulation that we need, as rightly even a Premachandran has, MP, Honorable Minister, Honorable MP has said, that we needed a regulation. At the same time, it should not infringe on your fundamental rights of freedom of expression. But nobody can say I have an absolute freedom. The absolute freedom is not available anywhere in this world. Even in the United States, where there is a constitutional amendment was given those days, even they don't have they are also, their media is very responsible. Very unfortunately, as Prem has pointed out, even abusing some people, and how to go about. There must be something, a person who is damaging the name of an institution, damaging the name of an individual, how to go about. There must be some regulation. That regulation that should not interfere on the freedom of expression. Even the WhatsApp, in the name of privacy, and a lot of wrong things are happening. and even they don't have a servers in India. And these are all the things that even our investigating authorities cannot investigate on any of the wrong things that are happening. The social media, either we should get disciplined or somebody should discipline us. We are not prepared to get ourselves disciplined. We want to do whatever we want. Then there must be some regulation to not control is not required. I don't. Regulations means it doesn't mean control. It means a regulation. Now medical profession is there. There is a regulation. It is growing very well. Bar council is there. It is going very well because there is a regulation, and they are not losing anything rights. They are not losing anything. They are prestigious privileges. So anything, auditors, chartered accountants, you have a regulation. Cost accountants, you have a regulation. Company secretaries, you have a regulation. Why journalism alone is having a lot of problem? Nobody is bothered about that. Suddenly, one organization, reading organization, there I have retrenched from tomorrow, 1st of next month, I am retrenching 125 people because there is no regulation. Because you don't have we claim as if we are something having an absolute freedom. That it is not so. If the industry has to grow, there must be a regulated regulation, and it is not a control. It is not a. It doesn't infringe on the freedom of expression. Anyway, I thank all the viewers who come on the line. I thank our Dijai team and our conveners and honorary secretaries, Prem, Vinod and Deepthi for their wonderful task, and Hokal Wire, their team, Ashwin and others who have all done an excellent job behind the screen, and the colleges, the students, ACJ, NSJ, and so many, Anna University, and Indira Gandhi, IGNO, journalism students who have all done an excellent job, and I'm really thankful to them. We will meet again. Probably it gives us a lot of enthusiasm to formulate or organize some more conclaves like this. You please send us your opinion, and dijai.india@gmail.com. You share your views, what we can do, and please go to our Dijai official YouTube also, where you are seeing, and please subscribe to that. The more we need to have those who want to join, that real journalists, real digital journalists who want to join, you please send us a message. We will also include it in our WhatsApp group. Thank you very much. Jai Hind, Bharat Mata ki Jai, Vande Mataram. Thank you. Vinod.